It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon that started off as a pretty crappy day. It was all tough. It's a little windy out here, so hopefully you can hear me. But it started off as a lousy day, but now it's cleared up pretty nicely. And it's been a while since I did an update on the 72 here, so I thought I'd do that in this video. Today's project is to remove the drive shaft, and during this week I'm going to work on replacing the U-joints, because I've had this truck for, here I'm going to sit in here real quick because I think the wind's going to affect the sound. I've had this truck for 6 years and I've never replaced the U-joints in it, and they're starting to get a little bit of play, so I'm going to do that. I do a lot of U-joints at work, so now I have some experience with it, but I work with all brand new stuff at work. I have a feeling these ones are going to be a pain to, the old ones are going to be a pain to get out, but anyway. And something I never mentioned when I did the swap is that I shortened this drive shaft about 4 inches, cut 4 inches out and re-welded it back up. And I didn't mention that because I knew everybody was gonna say something about that. But here I am, probably 3,500 miles later, and I haven't had one issue with that at all. And I did it the right way. I made sure the joints were all in phase and everything, and I welded it all as one weld all around. And I think it's gonna hold up for, hopefully, for a good many years. And I have done a couple burnouts, and I have done some pretty hard pulls, and the thing has not come apart, thankfully. And to be safe, I do have a drive shaft loop that I made in case it ever did break. Oh yeah, here's a big thing I failed to mention, is I put a stock bumper back on it. It's a new reproduction bumper. Pretty decent quality. I got it from Summit Racing, but probably not as good as an original. But anyway, that looks real nice on there. The reason I did that is because the bumper I built was really cool and everything, but it was very heavy, and it lowered the front of the truck like a full inch. And every time I hit a bump, the suspension would bottom out, and I really didn't want to beef up the shocks or the suspension any more than it already is. It's a 3/4 ton truck. That just shows how heavy that bumper was. It's all made out of 1/4 inch steel or thicker, and it was just overkill for this. So I took that off and I put a nice stock bumper on it. In my opinion, it looks a lot better. I tried to act like I liked that other bumper, but in reality I messed up a couple angles, and I really didn't like how the angle was right here, and it just didn't look right. And I tried to talk myself into thinking it looked good, but it really wasn't up to par with my likings. So got a nice clean stock looking truck now. Now let's see if she'll fire up. It's been a couple days, I don't remember. I think it was Friday when I last drove this thing, but the weather has been in the 30s, and this truck is really drafty and has no heat, and it's not very pleasant to drive when it's cold, so I don't drive it when it's cold. It usually has to be above 40 degrees for me to want to drive this thing. Starts right up, and this camera does not pick up sound good, so it's going to sound all like rattling and bad on the camera, because the camera just kind of does not pick up sound. But I did put some different mufflers on here that Mr. Heavy Chevy gave me. They're kind of like welded Flowmaster, kind of like knockoffs. They sound pretty good. I really like them. actually a pretty comfortable and enjoyable ride. Alright guys, well, I decided I'm going to put off the drive shaft or the U-joints for a little bit here because I got some other issues to worry about, and I don't like to get into too many things at once. I like to correct one problem, move on to the next. But I got an engine light that came up on my little ride, and I noticed a little bit of hesitation, and I got a code here. It's a P0171, System 2 Lean Bank 1. Alright, I picked up some carb cleaner. It's now Monday afternoon, and I'm going to try to get right to the point because I get comments about me rambling on and try to get to the point here. I'm going to start it up and spray the carb cleaner around the intake manifolds, and that's going to be my starting point to figure out what the issue is. And hopefully that'll be it, because that'll be a simple fix. Well guys, I didn't have any luck with spraying the carb cleaner. The idle didn't change at all. However, I'm not going to rule out the intake manifold gaskets because it could be leaky on the bottom side where I can't get to. However, they are the aftermarket gaskets, the metal and rubber ones, not the original style. So those are a lot less likely to fail, but like I said, I'm not going to rule them out. But I'm going to go through and do some other things now. And I'm going to check all the vacuum fittings for my transmission. Well, there's just one on that. And I don't have a brake booster because I got Hydro Boost brakes on this. And I'm just going to go through, check the PCV valve, all that stuff, make sure everything's good and tight, check for cracks. Alright, I just pulled that cover off and I already found a potential problem. I don't know if it is the cause of the problem, but you can see right here, this is the vacuum line that goes to the fuel regulator. And it's got a big gaping crack in it there. Split right open. That's not good. I'm gonna see if I can get one of these at the parts store tomorrow on my way home from work. Okay guys, Tuesday night. It's a good time to work on this thing because it's kind of a crappy week, pretty cold, rainy. I already missed driving it though. It's a ton of fun, but I gotta get this lean problem fixed. Anyway, I went to the help section of Advanced Auto and got some elbows. They couldn't find this piece specific to the engine, so I got these elbows. They're not exactly the same as the old ones, a little bit bigger physically, or they look bigger on the outside, but the openings or the ends are the same size, so I think it'll work. So what I'm gonna do tonight is order a air fuel sensor or a wideband sensor and the gauge, so I can get that installed, weld that bung in there, and put that somewhere on the dash, and that is going to go on the driver's side bank 1, which is the bank that is actually running lean according to the computer. So that's going to be really helpful, and I'll be able to make sure that I'm not running lean anymore when I go through all these things and fix stuff. So that's the plan. Well, there it is. It's a little bit ugly, but it's going to be covered by the cover anyway. And I know for sure there's no leaks here now, so it's good. Alright guys, I stopped at AutoZone and rented this fuel pressure test kit here. Alright, I got that on there. It literally was just a matter of screwing it in. I was overthinking it, and I thought there was more to it than that, but pretty simple. Now I'm going to start it up, and hopefully it doesn't leak out of that fitting. Well, I got the thing running here, and got about 49 pounds of oil pressure. It's just below 50, and you want like 50 to 55, I think. But I'm gonna look that up. That might be fine. I don't think that's enough to really cause a problem, but I could be wrong. I'm gonna do some research on that. I gotta replace this belt. Alright, after a quick search on the forums here, a couple different forums, I like to get a few different opinions on things because there's a wide range of information and quite a bit of it is incorrect online, so you gotta be careful. But it looks like the fuel pressure is just fine on this. 45 to 55 is good. So there goes my brother on the mini bike. But anyway, yeah, it looks like I'm all set for fuel pressure. 45 is like the absolute lowest. You really don't want that. You want 50. But I'm at 49, so I don't think that is related to my issue. So I'm gonna say the fuel filter is all good and all that stuff, and fuel pump, and I'm gonna move on to say that it's a vacuum leak or something else. I need to check the wiring for my MAF sensor and make sure that it's all good and it's not shorting out anywhere, because that sounds like that can cause the P0171 code. So I'm gonna check that over quickly, and I might even be able to tune out the MAF sensor with HP tuners, but I don't want to get in too deep over my head. I gotta do some research on this stuff so I don't screw anything up. Hey guys, what is up? It is Thursday night, which is my Friday night. At work we switched over to summer hours, so now I'm working 4 days a week, 4 tens. Pretty nice. I haven't worked 40-hour weeks in a very long time, so kind of nice to have a little more free time. But I stopped at AutoZone, picked up a new belt, and get rid of that annoying squeaky belt, which hopefully that's all it is. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because this belt looks completely worn out. I know I pulled that off of a truck at the junkyard when I pulled the radiator out, so who knows how many miles are on that thing. But tonight's agenda is to bolt up the fuel filter. I never finished putting that back together. I started taking it apart and I was like, you know what, I should just check the fuel pressure first. That'd be the smart thing to do. So fuel pressure is good. That's gonna go back together. Now I know I'm only going to be monitoring the driver's side bank because I have the dual exhaust. However, that should give me an idea, and maybe someday I'll put a wideband for the passenger side, but it's not like I race this truck, and I don't see that being very necessary. Monitoring one side is better than nothing, I guess, and it's better than guess tuning, so it'll give me a good idea. Yeah, letting her drain off right now. I pulled the old belt off, pretty well shot. That's probably where the squeak is coming from, I'd imagine. But I got my wideband, just came in. So it's got a pretty fat instruction manual with it, so I'm gonna look at that. Alright guys, there's the bung welded in there. Got it approximately 18 inches from the exhaust port. So I got it at an angle so that the moisture can drain off of it. Now what I'm going to do is build my little bezel for the gauge. And I put this loom on all my wiring. I get this free at work out of the dumpster, because a lot of this stuff comes off of new trucks. A lot of wiring that is unneeded. So I know this stuff is cheap to buy new, but I'm such a cheapskate, I just pull it out at work, get it for free. It's good quality stuff too. It's factory, so looks nice. Alright guys, there is the installed air-fuel ratio gauge on its little bracket. Painted it white to match the other bracket. You're probably wondering, why didn't I put it in this hole right here on this bracket down here? Well, number one reason is it's way out of sight, and I want this thing where I can see it easily without looking down. And secondly, that hole is about a 1/4 inch too small. And what's the last reason? Oh yeah, the keys are kind of in the way, so that's why I didn't go there. But I like where it is. It's right over the blank gauge, so it's not covering anything. Let's get the loom over it. Looks pretty clean. Tucked everything up nicely, and the other wire runs along with the O2 sensor wire for the computer. That looks pretty good. So I'm gonna start it up and see if it works. Well, I already turned the key to make sure it comes on, but I didn't start it yet. So yeah, it's bouncing around quite a bit right now. But I'm gonna let it warm up and see what it does. But it's pretty lean. Well, not super lean right now, but it's getting into the 15s, the high 15s. Well guys, it's definitely a little bit lean, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But yep, there it is. You can hear it pinging a little bit. It's weird though, because it's not super lean. Well, it's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to pull out the laptop and see if I can do a little bit of tuning and get it a little better, and hopefully figure out my lean condition. Well, sorry about the reflection, but right now I'm working on smoothing out the VE table with help from the wideband sensor, adding a bunch of fueling. It was pretty messed up. Even I can tell, and I'm a noob at this stuff, but this whole area here between 800 and 1200 RPM was way down, lean, and that's probably why I was lacking power at takeoff. So I bumped that up, and the truck's running a lot better, but it still needs more. So I'm gonna work on this a little bit more. It takes a little bit of time, but just trying to get it dialed in. Well guys, I got the tune set up pretty good. I didn't film any more of me messing around with HP tuners because I'm not a professional and I don't want to give out any false information, but maybe someday I'll do some how-to videos when I feel qualified to do so. But whatever I did on there, it's running a lot better, and when I stomp on it, it goes to 13 flat, which is pretty good, pretty decent. I could lean it just a little bit, but I'm going to leave it right there. I'd rather it be a little bit rich than too lean. Before it was going to 17 when I stomped on it. It was doing a lot of weird stuff, but it runs a heck of a lot better now. And just regular running, cruising is like 14.5. It's perfect. But basically all I did was add like 25% to the VE table of fuel, and that richened things right up. And I played around with the MAF sensor a little bit too. I changed the temperatures on that, where it kicks in and stuff. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. There's a lot of like different numbers, a lot of numbers, but I watched a lot of videos on it that kind of explained it pretty decently.